Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Welcome to our framework sprint for Childcare Center tour tips. We have a lot to go over today, as usual. And one thing I did want to tell everyone is if we don't get through all the material today, we will be doing a part two to this presentation. So if we don't get through everything, don't worry. I want to make sure I go through everything, slowly and clearly, and be able to answer any questions anyone might have. So I am going to get started. And as always, if you have any questions at any time, either during this presentation live, or say you're watching this 3 months, 6 months, 1 or 2 years down the line, feel free to email me. My email is on all of the slides, and I'm more than happy to chat. Okay, so today's agenda, we're going to talk about a tour day checklist. We're going to talk about managing expectations of your potential families. We're going to talk about tour stops, pro tips, normalizing a problem if something occurs, because of course at a preschool you never know what's going to happen if you walk into a room. Usually it's great, but once in a while something may happen, and thinking on your feet is really important. And an assumptive closing and asking for the sale, and reflection and follow-up. And of course, our teachers' roles in helping building that trust and making our potential families and children feel welcome. Okay, so tour day pregame checklist. This I love. So I kind of broke it up for you all. And so the first would be office to do. So for the director or whoever's giving the tour, making sure that you're texting or calling your potential tour on the phone, just reminding you about your tour tomorrow. Just, if you have any questions, write them down ahead of time. Of course, giving someone a landmark of where your school is. Of course, CRM, making sure your CRM rules are up to speed and cleaned up. It's really important. Making sure the right director is on the right CRM templates. Oftentimes that's what I see a lot nationally is, a director from 2 years ago is on the current templates. So making sure everything's cleaned up and ready to go. And then figure eight. So a figure eight checklist is, going, and it's actually from the restaurant industry. It's going in a figure eight around your school and making sure that everything is tour ready. So that would be starting from, and I could actually do an entire webinar on this, so I'll briefly tell you what it is so you can kind of get the idea. You would start from, say, the entrance of your parking lot, and you look and you kind of have this checklist. Oh, how does the garbage can look? Does it look like it's been cleaned up? Doesn't have flies all over it, and garbage stacked to the very top. And then you can look at like the lines on your parking lot. Are they like freshly painted? Are there lots of cobwebs on your porch or the front entrance of your building? Are there fresh plants in the front of your building? Are there playground balls over the fence by the entrance of your school? All of these things really add up. And, you want your school to look as presentable as possible, and you get one chance at a first impression. So, as you drive into your school, what does that look like? And, this is also a great opportunity to engage your, a new staff member or a new family and say, hey, once they're enrolled, or, to a new teacher, hey, how did we look? What would you like tidy up, especially new staff members, not so much new families, but how did we look when you came up? What would you spruce up? Usually fresh eyes are really important here. And of course, know your openings and opening dates, especially in the summer, as we were getting into touring. It's really important to know, when children are going to be moving up, when your pre-K are going to, maybe a lot of times, sometimes pre-K or pre-Kers don't stay the whole summer. And so knowing where your openings are, so for your touring purposes, when you truly realistically have an opening. I know that since COVID, I know there's been a ton of demand on preschools nationally, and a lot of people have these wait lists. They're not full, their centers aren't full, but they have these wait lists because of the parent demand, but also the, and finding teachers has been so difficult who will stay. So there's been a lot of demand based on that. And also, for many reasons. So making sure your openings is really, really great. And also just so you can give a realistic timeline of when they can start. Of course, teacher check, teacher heads up. This would be about 30 minutes before, hey, you run around the school, just so you know, reminding you this is the parent that's going to be touring, this is the child that's going to be touring, making sure everyone knows their names. That's so great. If someone walks into a room and someone says, oh, hi, hi, Luke and Tammy, oh, we were expecting you. That's so nice. And teacher dress code, making sure that your teachers are in dress code or in uniform with a name tag is always fantastic. Prepping your teachers for teacher takeover. So teacher takeover is really cool. It's when you kind of train and prep your teachers to talk about their room and go over, 3 to 5 things that they want to highlight about their room. And usually I say to people to really coach your teachers to talk about themselves. And that's something that teachers aren't used to doing. And it's something we really want to highlight. We want them to be really confident that they are the experts and that they own their room and they, they're so important in, this process. Obviously, it's all about the teachers and the children. So having your teachers, have 3 to 5 things they can talk about. And that's also its own webinar in itself, teacher takeovers, but also making sure, the teacher, in pre-COVID times, I'd say, make sure that the teacher comes over and, shakes the parent's hand and, gets, obviously eye level with the child. Maybe handshaking isn't as big now, but, a hello from across the room is fantastic. And of course, making sure the teacher is prepared for their day is what goes without saying. And then tour snacks to do. I love it when there's a snack. So even if and again, this was pre-COVID, a lot of this, but I'm starting to see this more now, but cookies, freshly baked cookies from your kitchen or freshly baked muffins from the little muffin box, having those in the oven before someone arrives, it smells so nice. It feels so homey. But you can also get, individually wrapped, granola bars or individually wrapped muffins, because oftentimes parents are going from at least 1 or 2 schools in one day. And especially sometimes if the mama is pregnant, they have maybe 1 or 2 children with them. And so having a little snack's always appreciated. Of course, I love the coffee station. I talk a lot about coffee stations with everyone. But a coffee station, I always love to highlight to parents. I'm not sure if you all are doing coffee stations at this point, but I love when we can give our parents, the free Keurig cup of coffee every day, and parents really appreciate it. So, but one thing I did want to mention is, if I would love for everyone to offer cold bottled water or cold LaCroix. Or Perrier, or, I really do think there's a difference between, the nicer LaCroix or Perrier or seltzer and a regular bottle of water. I think it's nice to have an option. Oh, would you like cold bottled water or, seltzer? People are like, oh, wow. And, if you think about it, you go in to buy a car and, they offer you those things right away. And so, parents are going to be, spending a good amount on their child's education. And we should really roll out the red carpet for these parents and their initial experience, especially. So I always encourage people to have those, offer both, and then also make sure they're cold. I think it makes a big difference, if you can have a little mini fridge or, have it ready for when they arrive. And the extras, welcoming on the chalkboard with a child's name, or of course having a tour gift ready for post tour is fantastic. So, I love to see books, anything that has to do with your curriculum that would set you apart. And so, thanks so much for touring. We really enjoyed having you here. Here's a little gift from us. So you can always, remember, meeting us and, well, however you would close. So, but an age appropriate book is fantastic. And it's something that parents can read over and over again, maybe with multiple children. But the trick here is to put your own school's logo on the front of the book. And so every time they grab that book at home, they're going to look and see your school's logo and they'll think of you. So I love that one. I can give you 100 tour gift ideas, but that one I think is tried and true. And again, happy to talk more ideas of tour gifts, but that one's kind of continuing. That's always a great one. Okay, so the 5 senses. Let's talk about the 5 senses when it comes to a preschool tour. So sound. I love to hear, some nice soft music. Something that's like super loud and like these Disney tunes. I would say maybe not so much. We want to have a very calming environment. And this is also not just for tours. I'd love to see this in general for children when they're arriving at school. But a nice calming music is fantastic. And smell, again, baked goods in the oven, obviously a very clean school, some sort of a diffuser. Some people like that, some people don't. I'm here to give you ideas. But I love the baked goods in the oven because a lot of times people are cooking anyways in their school. There's a chef, there's a tour coming in later. So having something, in the oven is great. Now, sight. We talked about the figure 8 and, we went over kind of just the initial, outside of your school, but just the general decluttering of your school, decluttering of the director's office, making sure you look really organized and, like you run a tight ship with, a clean school, an organized school. If you see, a mess of an office and, clutter everywhere, it makes you think, oh, okay, maybe they're not very organized. I wonder if they're going to do their curriculum today, who's running the show here? So having fresh eyes is important. And I'm all about, a creative teacher, creative director, but, making sure that we also look very professional and presentable is really important. And of course, taste. We talked about the tour snack. I love that. So, if you haven't tried a tour snack, give it a go. There's no harm in trying it. And again, if you really don't want to cook something or, just get some individually wrapped, muffins from Costco and call it a day. But offering it is great. If someone says no, that's fine too. And then touch, the handshake, of course, door handles that are wiped make a really big difference. We have little kids running around all day, opening and closing the front doors when they're coming in and out with mama and daddy. So, making sure everything's wiped down, so many times, it's a little grubby, so that makes a difference. And of course, having any kind of child playing with classroom materials during tour. So have any kind of materials out, I don't know, either it's in your lobby, something for the child to touch and play with. Of course, we want our little ones to be occupied and engaged because that's what our schools do. So tour day kickoff checklist. And so let's start here by talking about, of course, warmly greet by name and always thank them for coming in. Before, actually for years, I was doing mystery shopping for clients, and it was always so eye-opening to see that most of the time people would, the director of the school that I would tour, they would kind of look at me like, oh, okay, you must be this tour, or they looked at me like they didn't know who I was when I entered. You should really anticipate, anyone who's new coming into your school and say, oh, you must be so-and-so. Oh, you must be Molly. I was expecting you. Welcome. Oh, you must be Molly and Leo. I have a little son now. So, just having that anticipation and acknowledging someone so they don't feel like they're, an intruder is really, really important. And most of the time that doesn't happen. And I did want to mention earlier, actually, if we go back a slide, the things that I mentioned here, the snacks, the offering a drink, the prep for tour takeover, the call the day before or text, those are things that people are not typically doing. And you think they'd be doing it, but honestly, they're not. And so there's a big room for improvement in our industry for you to improve this. And this goes back to, training our directors and our teachers. So always goes back to systems and training. So I always love this. So use the upfront contract method. So reconfirm how much time they have available for the tour at almost like when they enter, of course, say hello, have them do their paperwork, but make sure, say typically our tours take 30 minutes. Does that time frame still work for you? Because, something could have come up and they could say, actually, I only have 10 or 15 minutes. I have to get back to work. I'm on my lunch break, or, oh, my child has an appointment that was just scheduled last night. I can't stay the whole time, because the last thing you want to do is rush. And at least if you have 30 minutes instead of, 45 or an hour or 15 instead of 30, at least that, okay, I'm going to hit these 3 or 4 things that I know that they'll probably want to know for this age group. And that's also when you have to really, be cognizant and intuitive and intentional on what they might want to know. Has the little one been to preschool before? Is it their first time? If it's a first time parent and they haven't been to preschool before, you might, highlight different areas of your school than someone else. Or maybe the little one has been to a different school and they've had a bad experience with fighting, or who knows what. That would be really good to know, so you know what to highlight and how you can tailor the tour for them. So I love the upfront contract method. Now, obviously the goal is to build your relationship with them. So, you want to make sure you have the right person in the right seat as far as, doing the tour. So making sure you have the right person is, I'd say, number one. I always talk about this gal who works for, actually, we have preschools, my family still, even though I work for Hinge, and she closes I'd say probably over 95% of her tours, and everyone wants to enroll. And she is such a people person. And it makes a big difference when someone like that in the driver's seat with enrollment versus someone who doesn't really enjoy it, gets anxious over it, maybe doesn't read social cues as well. You'll definitely see a difference with your enrollment if you were to compare those 2 types of people. So making sure you have the right person in the right seat. Now, having the IDing a parent, this one, I'm always so surprised that how many schools do not do this. And this is a great to do. And, especially, with safety in schools being really imperative these days, knowing who is in your school, even just asking for an ID, someone who doesn't want you to know who they are and they say, oh, no, I'm not comfortable with that. Great. Then you know what? They shouldn't be in your school. And I really do firmly believe that. So asking for someone's ID, taking it, copying it, and that way you have it on file. If you get any, bad feelings, then, oh, something came up. I'm so sorry. We had some staff changes. I can't tour you today. Get them out of your building. And then also, having your parent fill out an intake form. And of course, like we said, offering coffee, drink, snack, of course, reminding the teachers that they've arrived. And then this last one, it sounds a little judgy, but it's actually meant to help you. So profile customers A, B, C, or D customer. So if someone walks in and they are they're at another school, they might want to come to you. They're not sure they want to change. They're pretty happy. They just want to see what else is out there. They wouldn't be an A customer. They're not looking to enroll right away. They're relatively happy someplace else. Whereas if someone, someone walks in, they say, hey, we're moving here in, 3 weeks. You're my number one choice. I've heard so many great things. The person, our neighbor across the street, really recommends you for where we're moving, then that would be an A customer. So being able to decipher right away, who's really eager to get in and who might just be shopping around or just not that interested is important, so we can prioritize our follow-up. Okay, and then of course, managing expectations is really important here. And this is all about educating our parents. So highlighting the benefits of group care versus grandma. And again, this is going to go back to asking the questions in the beginning and making sure that you're asking the right questions. What are you looking for? What are your priorities? Where has little one been? With grandma, at in-home care, with a nanny? And so that would be really important to say, they hear the major benefits of, group care. And there's so many, right? We could rattle them off. There are 20 that we could talk about right now. And so making sure that we're educating our parents and not missing that window into, oh, wow, when the parent walks out, you want them to be thinking, wow, I can't not have my child start here. Wow, my child is really going to benefit from this. I want to get them in. I want them to start Monday. And then, of course, developmental milestones and talking about re-educating parents about what they can expect. So in general, especially after COVID, it's imperative that we're educating parents on the benefits of preschool, group care, all of it. So I'd say we can't do too little of that. And it's never been more important, especially with these COVID babies who haven't been in group care, haven't had much socialization. And as I'm seeing, as far as, talking to a lot of preschools nationally, we're seeing a lot of children, I hate to say behind, but not meeting the milestones that we would expect. And so that's really important to, understand with the parents. Maybe we have to, be a little bit more sensitive and, explain things differently and re-educate our parents on this. I wouldn't lead with that, but we are seeing that. So, just an emphasis on developmental milestones and what you can expect in each room and their goals is important. And then, of course, the goal is to match their needs with your product. So it's really important to know, hey, this is what they're looking for. They're looking for, hey, their child's a toddler. All they're looking for is socialization. Great, fantastic. But another parent might say, I'm really interested in academics. It's really important to me that, my child's ready for, kindergarten. So then you would focus on that. So where to spend your time that's going to pique their interest, because if you spend the whole time talking about curriculum and they could care less about curriculum, they just want the socialization and outdoor play or outdoor classroom, which also is curriculum, but you start talking about all this research and they're not really interested in that, you're going to lose them. You want to keep them captivated and engaged the whole tour. And I can't tell you how many tours I've been on where I don't get a chance to ask questions because it's kind of like lecturing the whole tour, which everyone has their own methods and I respect that. But from a parent perspective, it's really important to have that give and take and have that space to be able to ask a question. And because it can feel draining to go on a tour and it just be talk and just listening the whole time. You're like, okay, am I going to get a word in? And so when someone asks you, what's your experience been? Has your child been in school? What are you looking for? Are mom and dad, is it mom and dad that will drop off? All of these questions are really important. And then of course, be clear what you won't do from the beginning. So that's really important. So, here are our ratios. If someone's like, oh, well, what do you ever bring an extra teacher in just for help? No, we abide by state ratios, or, we always have a floater around, but you want to make sure you don't create false expectations from the beginning. Or also, this is really big on scheduling. So, that you can get into, it can be sticky territory when a director will want to yes a parent, a potential tour. So the tour will say, oh, well, can you do, 4 mornings a week instead of the full time? And I'll pick up at 1 instead of 12 and give us a different rate. And the director wants to say yes, 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 because, they want to start. And that's when we can say, oh, no, we don't offer that. Here are the reasons why. It's better for children to stay in their routine. It's better, you'll list your reasons, but being clear what you won't offer from the beginning is really important. And this also goes for your contract and anything with, the financials, just being really clear and direct from the beginning about, what they need to pay, when they need to pay it, and what happens if you don't pay it. You definitely don't want to go backwards and, and not go over it and then have the uncomfortable conversation. Oh, well, you signed it. Making sure you're going over everything from the beginning is really important. Okay, so tour stops. And this is, I'm probably gonna end after this slide because this is a great one to stop on. And I have about 4 minutes left. So tour stops are really great. So I don't know if you've seen them or not, and I could definitely give you some visuals to look at another time, or if you want to email me, my email's on all of the slides. But tour stops are highlighting specific areas that are designed to educate your tour on what you're offering. So you're typically going to choose, 3 to 5 aspects of your school that you want your director or whoever is giving your tour to stop at, to talk to your tour about. So you as an owner would discuss with your team, okay, what do we want to highlight? And typically what you see is, locally owned, outdoor classroom, curriculum, any kind of, like yoga or, mind body, we do, stretch and grow, yoga, anything that would be a USP, a unique selling point that makes you different from your competitors. And so you sprinkle them throughout your school. You usually get a sign company to make these beautiful signs, and you hang them up throughout your school, and they're little stops, little tour stops. And of course, and like I mentioned here, another great one would be emphasize the facility security. And that's one that you could do right away when they arrive. And you could even do a tour stop on that. And knowing that the buildings are secure is a great one. And so that's, and you could also do one on teachers, your teacher, you could also do one on teacher credentials. There's so many you could do, but I would choose 5 and stick to 5. They're ones that they can't really, they're ones that you don't want to choose that are going to go out of date. And so that's really important too. Don't pick something that, oh, well, we just started this, we're doing a temporary, STEM lab, and it's just temporary, just for the summer. Don't make a sign for that if you're not going to be consistent and offer it for the next few years. It's meant to be for, nice, proper signs, and it's a pillar of your school. And so these are the things that you're going to want your tour to walk away with, remembering when you leave. Another thing with tour stops, and I didn't mention this before, but making sure whatever you're highlighting on your tour, as far as like the pillars of your school and tour stops, are consistent with your tour packet. And making sure your tour packet is nice and organized. And I would say, there is a difference between a regular tour packet and one that's, beautifully designed, and it's more of like a tour book versus a folder with lots of pieces of paper. Because, at the end of the day, when you tour 2 or 3 schools and you bring it home and you're looking at them, the one is going to keep marketing itself, and the other ones, sometimes, the papers get lost, they're everywhere. So I would consider doing a nice booklet. Now it's expensive, but at the very least, make sure if you do the tour folders with the pieces of paper that your tour stops, your USPs all of the things that you have for your tour stops are consistent with your tour packet. So make sure all your marketing, and the same thing on the website. If you're going to highlight a tour stop at your school, then you should probably put it on your website. And those 3 to 5 things be consistent throughout all of your different platforms for your marketing. So that wraps up tour stops. And again, I mean, I have quite a few more slides, but I wanted to make sure I went through each one slowly, and I didn't want to leave you guys hanging with, with things that I could have mentioned, but I went too fast. So we're gonna leave at tour stops, and we'll do a second presentation, a part 2. And again, let me know if you have any questions about any of this at any time. My email is at the bottom of all the slides, and I'm more than happy to talk to you all at any point. Again, even if it's 1 or 2 years from now and you're watching this as a recording. Looking forward to seeing you all soon, and can't wait to talk to you guys about the second part to this series. Have a great day.